Hello, I'm Rebecca Lynch, Development and Grants Director for ArtsAVL, and I'm here to provide an overview on the Grassroots Arts Program grant, or GAP. Important deadline for your calendar. Please note that the deadline for applications will be September 15th, and we're again proud to have support for this grant provided by the North Carolina Arts Council, Buncombe County, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Since 1977, the North Carolina Arts Council's GAP program has provided North Carolina citizens access to quality arts experiences across all 100 counties. The grant is managed by local arts councils like ArtsAVL. The Buncombe County's Grassroots Grant Program is made possible by ArtsAVL, the North Carolina Arts Council, Buncombe County Government, and the National Endowment for the Arts. GAP provides programmatic and operational support for nonprofit arts organizations in Buncombe County. GAP funds may be used for expenditures to conduct quality arts programs or operate a nonprofit arts organization. Please note this grant is not for individual artists or non-arts organizations. Grants for the 2025-2026 year will range from $2,500 to $7,500 depending upon the size of the organization. And again, the deadline to apply is September 15th. The rest of the timeline is as follows. The application opens on August 15th, closing on September 15th. We'll be announcing awards in late October, early November, with funds distributed thereafter. And a final report will be due May 31st, 2026. Eligibility. Organizations must have been in operation for at least 1 year and be physically located in Buncombe County. And while nonprofit 501c3 status is preferred, organizations that are nonprofit in nature may also receive GAP funds by using a fiscal agent to receive the funds on their behalf, but for program support only. And if you would like to apply using a fiscal agent, you will need to contact us to set up an appointment to discuss this before applying. You will need approval from us, and you'll be given a separate link to a separate application for the fiscal agent. And again, those will be for program support only with a maximum award of $2,500 for those using a fiscal agent. So important to note that organizations that have already received a 25-26 grant from ArtsAVL, such as our Arts for Schools or Arts Build Community for a project, may not submit a GAP application for that same project. If you're eligible and can submit an operating grant, you'll be able to do that, but you cannot submit another grant for the same project that's already been funded by us this year. And then also organizations that have received an NCAC sustaining support grant, operating support grant, from the NCAC are still eligible to apply for GAP, but you can only apply for program support. But if you have received both an NCAC sustaining support grant and an NEA project grant this year, you are not eligible to apply for a GAP grant. If you've got questions about that, you'll be able to reach out to me and we can walk you through that. Religious organizations or churches may not receive grassroots funds unless the programs are presented outside of regular church services, engage the larger community, and do not contain religious content at all. Arts organizations may be required to match grant funding. If awarded, arts organizations may be required to match grant funding. The county's contribution will satisfy the match required for grantees that will be receiving North Carolina Arts Council funding, but that grantees that receive NEA funding will have a required one-to-one match, and that will all be communicated post-award as we're going through the contracting process. Funds are for projects taking place from July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. This is reimbursement for projects that have occurred during the funding period that have already taken place, as we realize that you won't find out about your award until later this fall, or for projects that have not yet occurred that are still on the calendar. However, they must be completed by June 30th, 2026. Allowable expenses. Program expenses that'll be allowable include such things as performances and festivals, art exhibitions, art camps and after-school programs, artist residencies, professional artist fees, and travel expenses for various programs, classes, workshops, performances, etc. Marketing, advertising, and publicity for programs, things such as props, sets, and costumes, or for space rental or equipment rental for programs. Operating expenses that will be supported are things like salaries, telephones, office supplies, printing, postage, rent, utilities, insurance, etc. And this is very important to note. These are things that grant funds cannot be used for. Individual applicants, prizes, competitions, scholarships, tuition, or financial awards, art supplies, or equipment purchases. That's very important. Fundraising events, the purchase of artwork, food or beverages for hospitality or entertainment functions, capital expenditures, internal school programs such as art programs, band and choral activities and equipment, oral history and history projects, as well as interest on loans, fines, or litigations costs. Funding priorities for GAP grants include the first priority is given to qualified arts organizations, such things as museums, theater, symphonies, art guilds, choral societies, dance companies, writers groups, etc., arts festivals. Second priority is given to organizations applying through a fiscal agent for a qualified arts program. And then also multicultural programs and organizations located in Buncombe County outside of the city of Asheville will also receive special consideration. To be considered a multicultural organization, the mission of the organization must be focused on supporting African American, Asian American, Latino, or Native American cultures. And for a program to be considered multicultural, it must be conducted by artists, ensembles, or organizations of color. The following categories are the categories upon which your application will be reviewed for evaluation and scoring. And these include the completeness of the application, the eligibility of the request, the feasibility of completion, budget size, accessibility, organizational stability, arts and cultural alignment, multicultural impact, geographic impact, and artistic excellence and merit. A little overview of how the selection process goes. Following the September 15th deadline, all applications that are received are going to be initially screened by staff in the categories of completeness, eligibility, and feasibility, and those are going to be scored from 0 to 10 each. Is the application fully complete, partially complete? Is part of the application eligible, all of it eligible? Do we believe the project is able to be feasible to be completed by June 30th? And after going through that scoring process, any applications that receive a 0 on any of these categories, complete application, eligibility, or feasibility, or a total score below 15 will not progress to the next level. And then after that first round, they'll move on. But also during this first screening by staff, applications are going to be grouped into possible funding regions based on their budget size. This is done with the understanding that larger institutions have a larger reach and greater operating costs. So organizations with a budget of less than $50,000 can be awarded up to $2,500. Organizations with a budget above 50,000 and 250,000 will receive up to 5,000, and organizations with a budget over 250,000 can receive can apply for up to $7,500. And then these are the following questions that a selection panel is going to be asked to score your application on based on the following criteria. So, application completeness. Do you feel like you have a good understanding of the proposal based on the application, or is it missing key details? And these are all scored on a scale from 1, meaning very doubtful, up to very high, 5, of very confident. Feasibility, how confident are you in the ability of the organization to complete the proposal, considering the scope, the time restraints, and other resources needed? Organizational stability, how confident are you in the organization's capacity to carry out the proposal and the grant reporting requirements? Accessibility, we do ask this to be looked at. So, how accessible is the proposed for individuals with disabilities, including physical, visual, hearing, and cognitive impairment, from very insubstantial to very substantial? What you'll be asked in your application is to share your accessibility statement and demonstrate how the location is will be accessible. And we provide the NEA's brief accessibility checklist there for your guidance. And tips on this include things like that the accommodations should be easy to find and clearly state whether advance notice is required, and contact information for questions. And some examples of those accommodations include accessible parking and restrooms and seating, courtesy wheelchairs, assisted listening devices or sign language interpretation, large print or braille or tactile tours or things like that. Other categories that you'll be evaluated on, your application will be evaluated on, include arts and cultural alignment. Of course, as this is an ArtsAVL arts grant, how centered are arts and culture in this proposal? And this can either be by enhancing the organization's ability to fulfill its arts and culture focused mission, or to increase the accessibility of arts and culture exposure to local residents. And then also, with the support of Buncombe County for this grant, we want to make sure that programming is happening across the county. And so we do ask what's the impact on residents throughout the county, especially in the underserved rural areas of the county. And then multicultural impact. Is this a multicultural organization or program with the definition that we discussed earlier? And then also artistic excellence and merit. Does this proposal exhibit artistic excellence, which could be seen in such ways as the quality of the artist involved, the creative process, the works of art involved, organizations and partners involved in the project, and their relevance to the communities the project aims to serve? And artistic merit, which can be looked at through the idea of the mission and audience alignment of the organization or program. Are there clearly defined goals? Are artists being directly compensated? Is there engagement with underserved artists and audiences? And so, how the selection process works. So, following the staff review, a panel of 3 to 5 community volunteers has been selected to review the applications and make final funding recommendations. And they'll be reviewing the applications based on those criteria that we just went over. Being given a clearing scoring spreadsheet and matrix and instructions by ArtsAVL. Those individual panel scores are then combined, averaged, and ranked by ArtsAVL staff, and then a joint meeting of all the panelists is held to review the combined ranked scores, discuss applications and any concerns, and then that panel creates a list of final funding recommendations. And then the applicant's combined scores, as well as additional notes or feedback from the panel, are provided to the applicant with their notification letter. If awarded a GAP grant, requirements include that your organization will enter into a contractual agreement with ArtsAVL. If an organization receives NEA funds as part of their GAP award, the organization must be prepared to comply with all federal regulations and policy requirements applicable to federal awards. We also want you to keep ArtsAVL staff informed of any project milestones and/or changes. And this is very important. If there are going to be any changes to your program, please communicate with that with us as early and as soon as possible. Please do not wait until your final report. And then, of course, if there's any reason why you think that you will not be able to complete the project within the time period or won't be able to expend those funds again, must be in touch with us as soon as possible to discuss those things. But mostly, we want to be kept informed of the project because we're invested in your success and we want to be a part of sharing it. So please do send invitations to openings or events or programs so that we can be a part and see the great work that y'all are doing in the community. We'd love to be able to be there and be a part of what y'all are doing. You will have to complete a final report form by May 31st. You'll be receiving that form in plenty of time. prior to May 31st. And very important, late or missing final reports means no funding for the next grant cycle. We at ArtsAVL are required to submit very detailed final reports to our funders shortly thereafter. And so, in order for us to be able to continue to secure the funding to support y'all through this program, we need to be able to tell your story and complete our reports as well. So, please do get those final reports in. Also important as into making sure that this funding keeps happening is making sure that the folks that support us are recognized for that support. So you'll be asked to demonstrate recognition, using logos in your materials for ArtsAVL, the North Carolina Arts Council, Buncombe County Government, and the National Endowment for the Arts, and all of those materials will be provided to you as part of your grant contract. We also want you to thank these folks. So we'll be having you all send emails or letters to the Buncombe County Commissioners, as well as to state and federal legislatures, thanking them for their support. And then we do encourage you, if you are not already, to please become a member of ArtsAVL and ArtsNC. This funding that is supporting this grant is largely due to the advocacy that these organizations provide on your behalf. To apply, first visit artsavl.org/gap and first read over all of the information that is there, timeline, eligibility, support resources, etc. You'll also see on that page there's a link to a PDF of the questions. Strongly encourage you to build a working document of your application in a Google Doc or Word document offline. So you have plenty of time to work on that, edit it, get it in the shape you want, make sure you've got all of your uploads and attachments ready to go. And then when you have your full package all reviewed, ready to go, fully final, then you'll be clicking on the application link, apply now, application link there at the artsavl.org/gap website, and she'll take you to the Google form, which looks like this below, where you'll be entering in all of your final application materials. And then if you do need help with your application or have specific questions, please feel free to email me at rebecca@artsavl.org. No phone calls, just send me an email. We can certainly set up a time to talk if we need to do that or answer questions via email. But however, I strongly, strongly, strongly urge and request that you reach out with those questions well in advance of the deadline. If you wait till the very last minute, I may not be able to, I may not be available to respond in the time needed, especially weekends or after hours when I'm not in the office. So please do, certainly no later than the very latest at, I would say, September 10th. Reach out to me with questions, but please do reach out sooner than that if possible, just to make sure that we have enough time to go over any concerns or questions that you might have so that we can get your application in great shape and ready to submit by the deadline on the 15th. Thank you again so much. We're always really excited to read everyone's application that comes in and get excited about the work that y'all are doing in our community.